These buns are so soft, so delicious, and they are also stuffed with ground beef and cheese. So welcome to my page. My name is Marceline and I'm happy to have you. Starting off with quarter cup of warm water, I'm adding a tablespoon of sugar, active dry yeast, and then we're gonna just go ahead, stir it up, cover it with a towel, and the yeast will bloom in about 5 to 10 minutes. Now moving on to the dry ingredients, I'm going to add 4 2/3 cup of bread flour, but if you don't have any bread flour and you want to make this, just go ahead and use your all-purpose flour. All right, now I'm adding 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, or if you want to use brown sugar, combine that and set it aside. Now I'm making this Japanese technique. It allows your bun to be very soft. I just add 2 tablespoons of milk, 2 tablespoons of water, 2 tablespoons of flour, and I just combine it to make a soft paste. Now look at how lovely that yeast look. We're going to add it to our mixer, and if you're not using a mixer and you're going to need this with your hand, just go ahead and add it to your bowl. Make sure to scrape out everything in your mixer. Next, I'm going to pour in my milk. I have 1 1/4 cup of warm milk. It's very important to use warm milk and not cold or not hot milk. Okay, after adding that, we're gonna add 1 egg. Make sure the egg is at room temperature. I also added 2 tablespoons of the Tangzong, which is that flour paste, the Japanese technique that I use. They use it in their bread to make the bread more fluffier, softer, and it also allows your bread to go longer without stealing. So now I added half of my dry ingredients. I start to combine that, and then I'm going to add half stick of my butter. I will add the other half stick of the butter later on. So now I added my remaining half of the flour, and I'm going to add my remaining half of the butter and just let this mix. I leave mine to mix for about 10 minutes. I always just stop the mixer every now and then for it to not overheat. I'm sure it would have been fine, but just me, I just have to make sure that I stop the mixer every now and then. But I allow this to mix for 10 minutes just so that my dough is kneaded properly. All right, as you can see, it is properly combined and it is very soft and perfect. I roll the dough in a ball and I'm going to grease it, and I'm going to put it in the warmest part of my kitchen. Right now the warmest part is in my oven. I'm just going to cover it with some plastic wrap, and then I'm going to place a kitchen towel over it, and I'm just going to leave it until it has doubled in size. This normally takes an hour to an hour and a half, but I did left mine for 2 hours because I had other stuff doing, which is totally fine as well. Now moving on to the ground beef, I'm using some Scotch bonnet pepper, purple onion, peppers, and scallion. I will also add some of my homemade jerk seasoning blend later on. But if you don't have that, go ahead and cook your ground beef the way you normally do. Spice it up and season it up your way. Now it is time to cook that ground beef. I'm adding some olive oil to the pot. Get it heated. Just saute our veggies, and then I will add my ground beef. Now I'm gonna add in that ground beef. Once it has started to brown, I'm gonna go in with my powdered seasoning. Just go ahead and season it the way you would normally season your ground beef. You don't necessarily have to have the same seasoning that I am using. As I have mentioned before, I'm going to be adding some of my homemade jerk marinade. It's so good in anything. Just go ahead and type in Howie Rose Cook Jerk Marinade and the video will come up with all the ingredients, or if I can remember, I will leave the link for it in the comment section. I just added some garlic paste. If you want, you can use fresh garlic. And once my beef is cooked, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of water to my blender, 2 slices of bread, blend it out. I will then pour some of that mixture on my ground beef. This will help the ground beef to remain moist. Even though I use a ground beef that was 93% lean and 7% fat, it's still a little greasy from the olive oil that we used to saute. So I'm using a paper towel to remove the excess grease before adding that bread mixture in there. I'm just gonna stir that in, and then I'll go in with a little of my browning, aka caramel, to give it that beautiful brown look, or you can just use soy sauce if you don't have any browning. Alright, so that's it. I'm gonna set this aside, allow it to cool down, and then we're gonna assemble our buns. It's time to check out the dough. As you can see, it has bloomed beautifully. The dough is perfect. I'm just gonna punch it to release the air, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a little knead for about a couple minutes, and then I'm going to try and cut them in the same size. It's almost impossible for me because I don't have the patience, but you can do it. All right, if you want all your buns to have the same size, you can use a kitchen scale as well just to weigh them. So I'm just going to use my dough cutter to cut it in half, then each half in quarter, and then I'm going to cut each quarter in half. And then each of those pieces are going to be cut in two, just so that I can get my buns to be the same size. After doing this, I'm just gonna set all my pieces aside, and I will cover them with that kitchen towel just to keep them warm, because the yeast loves a warm environment. So I already have a baking pan lined with parchment paper, so that as soon as I assemble my buns, I'm going to set them in there. Alright, so I'm gonna make 3 different shapes. Choose whichever one you want. My preferred one was the round ones. For the filling, go ahead and use whatever cheese you'd like to use. You don't have to use the same one that I'm using. I'm using some sliced cheese because I just find that it melts easy. I'm gonna go ahead, add the cheese and then the beef on top, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and roll it up. The first one, I also added some mozzarella. I forgot to mention that. I just flip over the end and the 2 sides, and then I roll it up to the other side until it is fully covered. I pinch the edges and just make sure that I roll it on my mat to make sure that everything is smooth. It's pretty obvious what I'm doing. It's nothing hard. And as I said before, if you find that this one is harder to do, you can just make the round ones, because those are the easiest and they go faster when assembling. So this one gave me the shape like a hot dog bun. It was long. All right, the second one is gonna shape like a wrap, like you're making a wrap, and then the third one will be the round ones. So it's pretty much visual, and after making these, you can keep them in the freezer, and when you're ready to bake them, you can leave them out at room temperature, allow these to activate, and then pop them in your oven. And I found that this can be like a great lunch to give to your kids for school, or if you're having a little kids party, these are perfect for them. So yeah. So for the round one, I just bring in all the sides And when I bring in all the sides, I just pinch it to make sure that it is sealed, and then I just roll it into a ball. And that's basically it. Just like when I'm making a hamburger bun, that's it. And I place it in my baking tray, and I continue the process until all of them is done, and I just cover it with a plastic wrap, throw the towel over it to keep it warm, and leave them for about 30 minutes until they are doubled in size. Now you can use an egg and a little milk to make an egg wash, but I just prefer to use just plain milk, brush it on the top of my buns, and to make them a little fancy like a store-bought bun, I just sprinkle on some of my sesame seed, and then I have my oven preheated at 320 degrees, and I bake them for about 20 minutes until they are golden brown, and I don't allow them to burn. As you can see, when I take them out of the oven, they are perfectly baked, bottom and top. And I prefer to use a parchment paper just so that it can release easily when it comes out of the oven. And now I'm gonna brush on some melted butter with some freshly chopped parsley just to give it a nice presentation. And now your hard work is gonna pay off, because look at how soft and fluffy these buns are. They just melt in your mouth, I promise you. And I'm gonna show you the top and the bottom of how perfectly baked these are. Bear with me, this was really hot and I was fighting for my dear life, but look at that, so beautiful, so perfect. Some of the meat was oozing out of that one, as you can see, but look at the bottom of the buns, so perfect. Please ensure that you line the pan with some parchment paper. All right, and look at this, so good. It was so soft, it just melted in your mouth. I promise you, no disappointment here. Go ahead and give the recipe a try. All the ingredients will be listed in my comment section on Facebook, and on YouTube it will be in the description box. All right, as always, thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate your time and support, and please drop me some hearts in the comment section if you have made it to the end of this video. All right, I really appreciate you. All right, go ahead, give the video a thumbs up, and if you're watching from YouTube and you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification that you don't miss any of my videos. All right, thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your week.